Alrighty, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today we are going to be talking about Rosie. If you're not familiar with who Rosie is, we actually kind of came in contact with Rosie because she did a podcast that ended up being like kind of viral, where she talked about her being groomed into greeterism and how that experience was and how she kind of escaped that. And it was a very, a lot of people were talking about it. And so I decided to talk about it. And then through that video, I actually was able to be connected with Rosie, and we've become, acquaintances since then. We've made a few videos on her. We've had her on the channel before, and she was going through a weight loss journey. Rosie lost about 100 pounds. She was using a GLP-1 at one point. She ended up losing her health insurance, and I think she wasn't able to afford the GLP-1 anymore. And then her weight loss kind of stalled. And then a lot of people since then basically have been asking me to talk about Rosie. And, I had some people that were kind of upset that I hadn't talked about her yet, but it's my channel, and so I'll talk about who I want when I want, basically, if we're being completely honest. And I just didn't feel like there was really much for me to say until today. So today we are going to be talking about this video that Rosie uploaded called "I've Been Avoiding This." And in this video, she is talking all about the fact that she's gained quite a bit of weight. And I feel she is pretty open and honest about the whole thing. But before that, Rosie has been uploading videos for a while now. But as you can see, the last video before this was 2 months ago. But she has been doing quite a bit of live streams. So she's been doing a lot of live streams, as you can tell, and just kind of showing herself cooking and talking about weight loss, or not about weight loss, wanting to lose weight, not wanting to lose weight, just kind of talking about this stuff, right? And but it is until yesterday, or I think it was actually uploaded. Was it uploaded today? I think it was, uploaded yesterday. She uploaded this video, "I've Been Avoiding This." And in this video, she goes over a lot of things that if I were to have made a video before this, I would have probably talked about. So I feel like it's a really perfect video that goes over all of the things that I would want to bring up with someone like Rosie. So I'm going to stop yapping. Let's just get into the video.
Hi, welcome to me. I don't even know where to start. It's been a very long time since I vlogged. There were a few times when I initially kind of stopped vlogging that I attempted. I filmed some stuff. I think it's all still in my phone. I haven't even looked back on it. But it's been months. Because I've been avoiding it, I haven't said hi, welcome to me in so long, because I've been avoiding me. I've been doing lives a lot. But in terms of the deeper stuff, in terms of my weight loss, in terms of my health, a while ago, I kind of just lied down and never got back up. And I'm still there. And I'm gonna film this, and I'm gonna talk, and I'm obviously very nervous too. This is probably gonna get personal and pretty deep, so if I cry, I'm sorry. I'm not planning on it, but I probably will, to be honest. Before I get into any of that, I want to share some good news. Next week, I think today's Wednesday or Thursday. I think it's Wednesday. Next week, on the 10th, I'm starting my new job. I did find a remote job.
Which I think that's a good thing, right? And that's one of the things that I feel like a lot of people, and we, even on a thumbnail, right, we compared Rosie to Amberlynn. A lot of people will compare them together. And I feel like obviously there are similarities that people can point out, but I do think one of the biggest differences that I've at least seen from Rosie's desires is that she desires to have a quote unquote normal job. And that's something that she, she's not opposed to it, and she actively searches for it. And that's, proof in this video, right? And I feel like that's a big difference. But I think that for a while she was becoming dependent on the revenue from the streams, as well as probably through videos. But I'm assuming the streams were probably a little bit more lucrative. That's probably why she was doing them so much more. But again, it locks you into this cycle when you are someone that is creating content and the content is paying your bills, of you have to continue making the content that is popular and that people are watching. And so it a lot of times can reinforce kind of bad habits. And I think that that's part of what happened with Rosie and why she struggled so much with her weight loss post the GLP-1 and started kind of gaining weight back, was because the unhealthy habits ended up being reinforced through, making content about that stuff.
Hired, decent pay. It's 100% remote. I'm very excited. I have my preliminary meeting tomorrow. It's an hour meeting to meet my trainer and whoever decides to show up. So I'm excited to have a day job to kind of fall back on, because the truth is, I think I kind of accidentally pinned myself into an unhealthy dynamic with my lives and my eating. I have completely fallen off the wagon, and I've been very upfront about it in my lives. I've not tried to hide anything about that because I didn't want to completely disappear, but I don't like who I've been in recent months, because I know that I have fully fallen into my food addiction. And I can list all these excuses, and I can list all of these things and say all of these reasons, and I might discuss some of them because I think there are people that can relate to it. But as I said in my weight loss video, the one where I reached 100 pounds down, I'm down 102 pounds. I'm so excited, but I can feel that self-saboteur deep down, feeling uncomfortable.
I think that's really interesting that she brings that up, because I can understand that feeling. It's almost this feeling like, I think when you've been overweight for a long period of time, for maybe it's your whole life, right? And you've maybe lost weight a few times in the past, that feeling of, I feel like, obviously I want to be successful, but I've felt this before, and it feels like I'm renting this success instead of owning it, right? And you feel like eventually the money's going to run out and I'm not going to be able to pay the rent anymore, versus this feeling of, I own this success and I know for a fact I will be successful because I'm not feeling this desire that I'm scraping and crawling and just barely, paying my rent. It's like, I have, when you feel like you own it, you have money in the bank. You're not even, you could pay for 6 months in advance if you wanted to. It wouldn't matter, right? You don't have that fear and that primal desire to hold on and grasp onto it, because it doesn't feel like it's slipping away. It feels very natural, right? And I can relate to that, because there was certainly a time when I was losing weight when I felt like I was just renting my success. It was when I was really struggling with BED, binge eating, and I felt like I can't continue doing this. I can't continue. There's just no way, right? And there was this fear, and eventually, I'm not going to be able to continue doing this, right? And being able to get to a point where I felt like I was in control and I owned my success, and that the reason I was successful was not a fluke. It was not just some, random thing that happened. It was because I put work in and I started to understand why the weight loss was happening. That was really, really important for me. And I feel like what Rosie is saying here is something that a lot of people can relate to, and that I know I experienced myself. And so I understand what she is referring to here, and I'm not entirely sure, if you haven't been through that, if that will completely make sense.
I'm just gonna have to not let that part of me win. This entire new journey that I'm on is all about loving myself enough to understand how to combat the toxicity within myself. I could feel this thing bubbling under the surface. This fear. And I almost predicted this because I fell back into one of my cycles, one of my patterns, and I am embarrassed about it because I am so self-aware of it.
Yeah, and it feels like almost like not exactly like a angel and devil on your shoulder kind of thing, but it's almost like this voice in the back of your head that you feel like you've put on this mask of success, and people are seeing you as this successful person, and they are, they're like, oh my God, I want to be just like you. And you're like, yeah, this is the persona that I'm putting on. But there's this like deep down version of you, almost like, I don't know, like a child version of you that knows all about you and every real, like, serious thing about you, right? And it's like in the back of your head just being like, you're just faking it. You're just lying to these people. This isn't real. Why do you keep, like, how long are you going to be able to keep this up? I know you won't be able to keep this up forever, right? It's this self-sabotage that it feels like this constant just reminder of your failures, and it reminds you of the times when it didn't work for you and the times when you thought you were going to be successful and you weren't. And it's like, see, you're not actually a success. You're always a failure. It just depends on how long that takes, right? And it can be really demoralizing. And so I understand that feeling.
I'm just trying to sit here and like be proud of myself and just let myself enjoy this win. This is a win. This is a good thing. It's going to be interesting to see how the next couple days go, because something like this could absolutely trigger me, which is bizarre. I know. But that's kind of the name of the game, isn't it? This whole addiction I have, this whole life I've lived is a little bizarre. I wish that self-awareness was enough to get myself to stop repeating my patterns and my cycles. And it's just not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like you can know everything, right? You might think you have all of the answers, and maybe you do have all the answers, but just because you know what you should do, that doesn't mean that you will do what you should do, right? There's a difference between knowing what you should do and doing what you should do. And I feel like, Rosie explains it really well.
I don't understand this disconnect I've had my whole life. I've done so much therapy that when I'm in therapy nowadays, I just get frustrated because I feel like I'm going in circles. And that's another thing that contributed to this was I lost my insurance a few months ago, 2, 3, 4 months ago. Honestly, I don't remember what month it was. And losing my insurance meant I lost access to my therapy. And that sucked. I haven't been in therapy for a bit. And then shortly thereafter, I haven't been taking care of my health. I haven't been taking my medication. I haven't been taking care of myself, and I feel so defeated. Because I logically know the answers. I logically know what I need to do. I've done it before. But I don't know how to be consistent. I've never known how to do that. And I've recently been thinking about this because I've been behaving like an addict recently. And I've been hiding it from everyone in my life. Because I'm embarrassed and ashamed.
And I think that this is what, in my opinion, separates Rosie from other like lol cow people in this space. I'm sure there are some people that will be like, oh, Rosie is a lol cow as well. Whatever, I think maybe we all have different definitions of that. But I think like the thing that personally, it's actually really funny that we're talking about this today, because I actually filmed a podcast with Fraser or iNabber. We have a podcast together. It's called Over the Pond. Go check it out and subscribe if you haven't already. But we filmed it last night, And in that podcast, a lot of what the podcast was about is like what makes someone a lolcow, because I feel like it's a pretty interesting kind of phenomenon that happens on the internet, because it feels like in every niche on the internet, in every community, there's like a lolcow, right, of that community. But I think one of the biggest things, and again, this is just my opinion, but one of the biggest things that I think contributes to someone being a lolcow is not taking accountability or always having an excuse for everything in your life, right? And never being able to fully take accountability and be honest about the times when you messed up. And I feel like, in my opinion, Rosie does a pretty good job of taking responsibility, especially in this video, but even in the past, and not always shifting blame as to why these problems are not her fault, right? It's kind of similar to a lot of the people, and I think that's why so many people get so viscerally annoyed with like some of the people in the fat acceptance community, or again, I brought this up a couple times, but the whole Dank DeMoss thing where she couldn't fit in the lift, or the Lyft rider didn't want her in their car, and she was so upset and she tried to call him out. And it was like, people were like, how are you not taking responsibility for the fact that you are the size that you are and this person isn't, I think that's a big part of it, is like not taking accountability and responsibility for things that clearly you have control over, right? Clearly the only person that's going to make significant changes are you, and you shifting the blame and blaming other people is only hurting you, right? And so I think that the reason I wanted to bring that up is because I feel like in parts of this video, Rosie does do, in my opinion, a pretty good job of taking responsibility. Now, just because someone takes responsibility, that doesn't mean they're going to make changes. Those are two very different things. I think understanding where you're falling short is different than making the changes so you're no longer falling short, right? And so someone can do a very good job at taking accountability and taking responsibility. That doesn't mean that they're going to be successful or they're going to see success, right? They still have to do the things that they need to do. But I think like it's one of the first steps in actually making a change, right? And I think that that's very interesting.
And this is probably one of the first times I'm saying it out loud. I gotta get a tissue or something, or not a tissue, a cloth or something. Hold on. For so long, I've always said that I don't feel like I'm a victim, and I don't want to be, and I'm not in a victim mindset. But that's where I feel like some of my self-awareness has been lacking. Because it's maybe not in my life, maybe not in like my past traumas, I don't feel that way, but in my current moment, when it comes to food, when it comes to this addiction that I have, I think I am in a victim mindset. Because I feel powerless, and because I've given in, and I'm normally the kind of person that works very hard to get back up when I get knocked down. And I've just been staying down. I've been hiding in a hole. I've been binge watching TV shows to escape. I have been participating in communities online that I know aren't good for me. And I do it anyway. And I like to be snarky sometimes and like a part of the tea, and like I don't think there's necessarily things wrong with that, but when I choose the subject matter to be something that is in a way a projection of myself, that's inherently a problem, right?
Yeah, I think that's very self-aware. I think that something that's pretty common with, I think, a lot of like snark communities is that a lot of times the people that are the most active in those communities feel a sense of self, and they see themselves in the person that they are snarking on. And I think that makes them uncomfortable. And then they want to make that person out to be as bad as possible because they are disgusted about the parts of themselves that they remind them of, right? And so I'm assuming she's talking about like ALR, right? Amberlynn Reed. And I think like with the drama with her recently and the whole Tommy thing, I think that she's talking about that because I do think that she, again, this is just armchair psychiatrist John here, but I think that she sees parts of herself in Amberlynn, and that really bothers her, and that's why she is so attracted to that side of the internet, right? And then obviously there are people that just make those connections as well. Like I think with Rosie and Amberlynn, there are a lot of similarities. So I understand other people making those connections, but I also understand her becoming part of the whole snark community of Amberlynn Reed, because I think in some aspects, seeing how ridiculous Amberlynn is makes people that are similar to Amberlynn feel better about the situation that they are in. And I feel like it is very common. And I think, like Rosie is about to say, it's not inherently a bad thing, like being part of a snark community, whatever. Like, you know, they are for the most part, you know, talking about things that are not super, you know, there's so much terrible stuff going on in the world right now that having like a little snark community that's usually focused on relatively mundane stuff that's not like the end of the world type of allegations, it can be like an escape for some people. I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing always, but I think it's when it takes over your life and it becomes such a huge part of your day-to-day life when it can become a problem, right? Too much of anything can be a problem. And I think that Rosie is starting to notice that here.
That logically makes sense to me. So, when I recently found myself in these like weird tit for tat things that I didn't necessarily ask for, but that I engaged in, how is that benefiting me? How is that helping me? Spoiler alert, it's not. It's distracting me. It's making me feel better because my life has been sucking. And that is why I haven't been vlogging. I don't want to vlog me whining and complaining and making excuses. I don't want to vlog pretending that things are fine when they're not. I don't want to vlog and monetize my food addiction. I sure don't. I appreciate the people that have supported me, and I understand the people that haven't been participating in my lives. I understand some of the hypocrisy that I've displayed when it comes to my relationship with food and how I act around food on the internet and my past. I don't necessarily agree with some points of it, but I also understand some other people's perspective of it.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of with Rosie. I don't really have an answer for it, but you know, obviously a lot of her popularity came from talking about escaping and, you know, dealing with being in a greeterism kind of relationship, right? And so when someone is in that relationship and then their whole persona of what made them popular on the internet is escaping that or trying to escape that and talking about the dangers of that, people are always going to assume that you are working towards getting away from that. And when they start looking into your lives and your videos and they are just a constant barrage of eating food and making food, and it doesn't seem like there is any desire or effort being put into trying to lose weight or trying to fix these problems, people start to get frustrated with that. And then a lot of times that can start to spiral into you becoming your own version of a lol cow, right? You becoming your own version of ALR, you becoming your own version of Foodie Beauty, you becoming your own version of whatever, right? And I'm sure Rosie deals with people that probably see her in the same light as an ALR, Foodie Beauty, whatever, right? And so it's a really fine line, and I'm not saying it's necessarily a fair thing, but this is exactly why I always tell people, and I always talk about it whenever I talk about filming yourself and, you know, making your whole persona about I'm going to lose weight on the internet. I'm going to be a person that went from 500 pounds to losing a ton of weight, right? It's a very delicate balance because you will find people that are excited for you, but they are also expecting something from you. And once that thing is no longer being delivered, people, not everyone, there are plenty of people that are very supportive and they understand and they're like, you know, it is what it is. But there are going to be a maybe it's a vocal minority, maybe it's a vocal majority of people that are upset that you are not doing the thing that you said you were going to do and what garnered you popularity on the internet in the first place. And they are going to be upset with you, and it is going to make losing weight even more difficult. So you are already doing something that's incredibly difficult by losing a significant amount of weight, but then you are going to add all of these other people's opinions to that, and then on top of it, you're not doing a very good job losing weight. And so those opinions are, most of them, very negative and cruel and mean, right? What do you expect? Like, what do you think is going to happen, right? That's why I always tell people, I'm not saying it's impossible to do, but I'm always like, just be very careful because it can become toxic very, very quickly, right? And so I understand like the frustration here.
I'm excited to start my new job and to have more structure in my day because I gotta get back up. I gotta get back up. I'm trying to run away from myself. And getting this new job means I'm gonna get insurance again. I gotta get back into therapy.
So, and like I said, right, all of this stuff is good, but it's good to have a plan. And I think like sharing it, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's the most important thing is actually doing it, right? That's the most important thing. I think anyone can say that they're going to do this thing. Most important thing is you actually do it, right?
But I've been at this for a long time. The therapy stuff. I don't know what that looks like because I find myself running in circles. Like, I have my reasons for not wanting weight loss surgery. The GLP-1 medication didn't work for me. There's the obvious, I need to track my calories and do a calorie deficit and move more. And that's what I have to walk towards. But that's what I struggle to maintain and do. It's like, I don't want to do, what's it called? Like, the Food Addicts Anonymous, whatever the fuck that is, because I don't agree with food abstinence. I don't even know how that works. Actually, I read into it, and the way that it works is too extreme. The extreme restriction doesn't work for me in my binge eating disorder, and it's like I just find all these like loops, and there's that main path that I need to walk down on and stay on, and I had a major failure.
Yeah, it's clearly there are, a lot of things that Rosie has tried to lose weight, and I think like I understand that frustration. I think with the GLP-1, I can understand being frustrated about that not working, but I wouldn't count it out. Now, you guys know me, right? I'm not the super hugest, I don't tell everyone to go on GLP-1s, but I also think that they can be very helpful. And I do think that there is a place for them. And I think that Rosie could find success in them. Maybe that time that she tried them, they didn't work, but maybe there are plenty of different types of GLP-1s that you can maybe explore. As far as weight loss surgery, I think that that's definitely something that could be considered. When you get to a certain point, I think that there is nothing wrong with exploring every option possible. And now obviously caloric deficit and moving more and all that stuff, like that's how weight loss happens, right? You have to be in a deficit to lose weight. But I also understand that just because someone knows that, it's so much easier said than done. And so I get very annoyed when people are like, just eat less, LOL. It's like, brother, it is so much more complicated than that, especially in my opinion with Rosie and the things that she is dealing with. And so I understand the frustration, but I also do believe that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that Rosie could find that. And I think that, just like she said, laying down and just giving up is obviously not the answer. And I think it's somewhere in between, there's perfection and then there's giving up. It's somewhere in the middle. And it's trying to find that middle ground that helps you lose weight, but it doesn't feel like it is a chore and like it's this horrible, stressful like thing that you just hate, right? But it's, you know, it can be relatively uncomfortable. Obviously, losing weight it's never going to be fun. But it can be relatively uncomfortable, but you can still see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you're able to be like, okay, like focus on the delayed gratification. Yes, getting a Wendy's, you know, double decker 4x4, what I don't know what they're called at Wendy's, but like getting one of those in the moment would feel good. But it would also feel probably just as good if the next day you woke up and you realized you didn't have that thing and you're proud of yourself, right? And it's like really working on that delayed gratification. How can I feel the same sense of fulfillment and like joy that I get from eating out whatever meal versus being proud of myself because I abstained from that and I ate, you know, something at home that was a lot healthier, right? It's about finding how can I make that work for myself. And there is no one size fits all answer, and it's going to be different for everyone. And so I understand going through the process of trying to figure that out for yourself can be very frustrating.
And I don't want to become a joke. And that scares me. I want to share myself and my life. And I want to share those failures. I want to just kind of reiterate, one of the biggest reasons I haven't been vlogging is because I'm not the type of person to skirt accountability or fake my life or fake things. And I don't know how to move forward because there's things that I want that are much more tied with like my short-term desires and short-term satisfactions, I guess. And then there's the things that I want because I want to be a better, healthier version of myself, that I constantly let fear stop me. And that ties into what I need. Because I need to be healthier. In every aspect. Not just my food. Not just in how I eat. But in how I behave. And how I act. And how I am mentally. Because I am a very mentally ill person. And trying to figure out how to acknowledge that and not use my mental health as a shield is something that I'm very cognizant of. Because I do have CPTSD and ADHD and MDD. And I am chronically ill and I am disabled by my PTSD. And it sucks. And I do have chronic pain that makes movement very hard. Far beyond the additional weight on my body. And it just makes me want to give up. And one of the biggest reasons I'm making this video right now is because I'm just gonna come clean and acknowledge what I've been hiding from. Because the past few weeks specifically, when it comes to the disease of my addiction, of my food addiction, have been bad. Because I have just been eating out at a rate that scares me.
I think like with this, one thing that I feel is really interesting and what she brought up is that I think a lot of times people will expect weight loss to fix all of their problems. And I think something that is good about Rosie is that it seems that she understands that eating healthier and being healthier will help a lot of aspects of her life, but it's not going to be this one size fits all solution. And when it comes to improving your overall wellness, right, there is more to that than just losing weight. I think that there's a lot, going to sleep at a more regular time, getting a job will probably be very helpful. And like just taking care of yourself, your whole body, right? And like the things that your body interacts with, and how what you interact with online, and how much time you're spending online, and how much time you're spending in this specific little niche area is this doing any good for you, right? There's so much more to overall wellness than just losing weight. And I think a lot of times people in Rosie's position, they overestimate the importance and how much losing weight will do for you. Losing weight will absolutely help a lot, right? Of course. But if you start to think that it's the only thing you need to do, you end up going down a very, very bad place. And I think that Rosie is really trying to avoid that, because I think that she probably has seen what it seems like, I think, what Amberlynn has done, where it seems that it's almost like, oh, I just need to lose weight and then everyone will like me and all my problems will be solved, right? When there's a lot of other stuff going on that make people maybe not like her, right? And so I think that Rosie at least sees that there is more to her problems than just the fact that she is a bigger individual, right?
And I purposefully keep it off the internet, not to hide it, but because I don't want to glamorize it. I don't want to sensationalize it. I don't want to monetize off of it.
And that's huge. That's one of the, in my opinion, one of the things that separates certain people. It's like a problem a lot of people have with Amberlynn. It's a problem a lot of people have with Hungry Fat Chick or Candy, right? Is the fact that it's this constant, like, you're almost monetizing the fact that you are larger, right? Like, the fact that you're larger is a huge part of your content and you kind of lean into it, right? And with Amberlynn, if you look at her thumbnails, a lot of times she's talking about weight and she's showing herself. I think her last thumbnail is her literally drinking out of like a carton of milk, right? It's just like, that is the thing that people are coming to you for. And I think it's really hard when you're in a position like Rosie, when you are, and I mean this in the nicest way, but you're a very large individual. And so that is going to be people's first impression of you, right? They're going to see that you're a large individual. And sadly, there are going to be people that are going to gravitate towards you because of that fact, right? I'm sure that there are plenty of people that watch Rosie, Amberlynn, Hungry Fat Chick, Foodie Beauty, strictly because they are bigger. They might not admit that, or they might not know it themselves. But if this person wasn't that large, maybe they would still watch them, but they wouldn't have initially found them interesting. And I think that's an important factor in it, is this thing makes this person interesting, the fact that they are very large. And then that makes you curious about the person, and then you start digging in, and then you start getting into all the lore of everything that's happening, right? And so I think that Rosie understands that will always be attached to her, right? Her size is always going to be something that people see immediately, and then they make a snap judgment on regardless of what she's doing, right? And so it's like trying to navigate through that and not make that your entire being, while also understanding like that is a big part of what makes you unique on the internet.
Because I've done that before. And I'm ashamed of that. So I'm so frustrated with myself. I'm so mad at myself. So the plan moving forward is baby steps, because I have got to stop self-harming in this way, because that's what I'm doing. I'm 33 years old, and I've come a good long way from my mental health from when I was younger, right? And who I currently am today. And it is exhausting to just realize how much more I have to go, and the work that needs to be done from current versions of me, because I've changed a lot from how I presented in my behaviors, I guess, when I was younger, because I'm much more of a shut-in. I don't trust people. I don't talk to many people on like a very deep level because I don't trust people. Having reaction channels dox my address and send packages to my house and stalk my every move and have several people try to infiltrate my community really has like fucked with me in a way where I can't even like trust genuine engagement a lot of the time. And I'm afraid to make friends.
Yeah, and I definitely, I can understand where she's coming from with that. I think that would be something that would be hard to deal with. And I think there's a couple things that Rosie, I'm sure looking back on, probably wishes she didn't do. I know that she went on a podcast that just made her look very bad. It was, I think it's called like the Whatever podcast. And it was just like, you know, a podcast basically that was set up to kind of make fun of her for the most part. And I think going into that stuff, and I think one thing that is important to realize, especially when you're on the internet, the longer you're on the internet, is that not all attention is good attention. Maybe some people might think that way. And if you're able to separate yourself from the persona that you play online, it can be good, right? I think about like Nick Ocado. I think for him, any attention is good attention. It doesn't matter because there is a disconnect between the character we see and the actual person. But my personal opinion is that when we look at Rosie, there is not much of a difference between the person we see and the content, right? It's or the content and the actual person, right? It's very much so. It's connected, right? The person is the content versus the person is here and they're playing a role in the content, like Nick Ocado. And I think that you have to be very careful with the things that you engage in and the things that you decide to attach yourself to. And this is something that I've struggled with to a different extent because I've had people, which I mentioned at the start of this video, that if I ever mention someone in my videos in a positive way, people feel that I am now connected to that person. And so therefore, if they are not doing the right things, that I have some sort of, like it's my fault, or I need to let them know that they're doing something wrong, or I need to talk about it, right? There have been a lot of comments, or at least a few comments of people bringing up Rosie and saying, you know, she hasn't lost weight, she's failing you, and you promoted her, and now look at what she's doing. You know, you should be ashamed, blah, blah, blah. When it's frustrating because, you know, I promoted Rosie because I thought that her story was interesting, and I thought that what she was sharing was important, but it's annoying, if I'm being honest, that people will say, okay, because you've done that, you are now attached together forever, and you have to either denounce everything that's happening or fully support. You know, I think everyone is a multifaceted human, and we all are going through different things at different times. And, you know, I've obviously kept tabs on what's been happening with Rosie, but I didn't feel like it was important or necessary that I went over every single little thing, because I just didn't really want to. At the end of the day, it's like, really, that's the most important thing. Like, if I really don't want to make a video, I'm not going to make a video. And so, you know, I don't know. I'm not sure if that really had anything to do with it, but I did want to say that in this video because it is something that I've noticed in the past as well.
So I isolate a lot, and that has been fueling a lot of these behaviors and triggering them.
Yeah, when you're a content creator, you don't want to connect yourself with other people, because if that person is caught up in doing something, you're expected to have something to say about it or to call them out, and that can just be very frustrating, right?
And I have to work on letting that go and understand that I don't have things to hide, and that it is okay to trust people and that not everyone is out to hurt you. You know? So, the plan moving forward, like I was saying earlier, is the baby steps. I need to stop eating it. I wish I could block DoorDash off my phone. Jesus Christ. You guys, you want to know something really stupid? For months, I would just delete DoorDash off my app off my phone every time I didn't want to use it, and like the next day I would re-download it, and then I would delete it again, and like a day or two later I would re-download it, and I refused to pay for Dash Pass for a while because I was like, then I'll just have excuses to keep using it. So I ended up spending extra money for months thinking that it was helping me order out less, when it was just this delusional spiral I was going down.
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of people that can relate to that for sure. I think that it's one of those things where it's like you feel like you're in control by deleting it off of your phone, but in reality, it's just you're forcing yourself to take a couple more steps to do the thing that you're going to end up doing anyways. But I do think that could be a beneficial thing, is like no more DoorDash. Rosie definitely cooks herself. She has tons of lives, but I think like forcing yourself to cook every meal could be a positive change, for the future. Getting rid of that convenience, because that convenience, it can be really, really, it can be really detrimental if you let it, kind of get a hold of you.
And then, I recently was just like, oh, fuck it. Just get the DoorDash pass. You're spending the money anyway. So I did. And that was one of the first moments I was kind of like, oh, this is a problem. And I'm excited to get a car. I'm going to wait till I have some pay stubs so I can finance a car. And, yeah. And that's one of the reasons I still don't have a car, is I was having issues with that because of having been on leave and stuff. So I was just like, well, when I get this new job, I'll just work. I'll get the pay stubs, and that'll be enough to finance. Before now, I wasn't ready, to be honest, and talk about what was really going on. And
I think that part of the reason that Rosie probably feels this like little glimmer of hope, it is probably, in my opinion, it could be the fact that, she does have that job that's coming up. And so it's interesting because a lot of times all that is required for us to make a significant change in our lives is just that one glimmer of hope, right? Just feeling like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You're not stuck in this cavern of never-ending darkness, right? Like feeling like I saw a light. I feel like there is something I can do to get out of this situation, can be just the spark that you need to make a massive change. And I feel like that is a big reason why Rosie is like actually feeling like she might be successful here, because she finally is feeling like she's seeing that light. And I really do hope that this works out, right?
be honest about it. So I just shut down. And I'm going to start by working on stopping the eating out and reestablishing patterns that I had in the past that helped me, like tracking my food, making better food choices, and just doing that slow elimination process that I started probably, a year ago? I don't know. I need to work with a calorie deficit and building a pattern of small, sustainable workout options that I can do with my physical limitations from.
I agree with all that. And I think another thing that's really important that you need to do, and anyone should do when you are dealing with regain, is not feel like I need to get back to the point where I was before I gained this weight and then I can start making progress. Because a lot of times, you might have gained 50 pounds, 60, 70 pounds from your lowest weight, and feeling like, just imagine like you're basically telling yourself you're not going to be proud of the progress you've made until you get back down to that weight that you were before. That could take like a year or maybe a little bit less, right? And so you're just going to continue fighting, doing this thing that is incredibly difficult for you, and not feeling proud of yourself because you need to get back down to that original weight before you can start feeling like you're making progress. It's really important to understand a pound lost is a pound lost, right? Be proud of that pound that you lost. Don't think, 50 pounds till I'm back to my original weight that I should have been at, right? No. I lost a pound from my weight yesterday or whatever. Be proud of that and continue doing that, right? Don't think to yourself, I lost 10 pounds, but I'm still 50 pounds up from where I was before. If that's your mindset, man, it is a really hard road that you are making even harder by treating it that way.
And it feels impossible, but it's not. It is possible. People who I've been seeing recently online that have been helping me wake up. I'm mutuals with Jordan on TikTok. I don't know if any of you know who Jordan is. Love Jordan. She's so funny. She's lost like 150 pounds roughly. Through diet and exercise after her cancer diagnosis. She's such a badass and she's such an inspiration, and there are times where I watch her content and I just cry because I want to be there and I'm not, and I have no one to blame for that but myself. I got down to 100.
It's important. I think that's good to feel that way, but it's also important to understand like you can do that too, right? You can do that too. You can find success in the same way that Jordan did.
And I'm so scared to get on that scale because I wouldn't be surprised if I've gained 40 to 50 pounds in 6 months. And I'm embarrassed. But I cannot let that stop me forever. And I can't let dissension drive the fear that's making me stop myself. I can't let other people's words fuel me getting in my own way. Because that's what I do. I get in my own way. I have my whole life. And I feel like right now making this video is me taking the first step to fighting my addiction for the first time in a long time.
And that's great. The only thing I would say is that to understand that this is just the first step and not to overly celebrate just the first step. And that might sound harsh, but I think a lot of times we will do something that we have been fearing, and instead of like continuing down that road, it's like, oh, well, I took the first step and now I'm really proud of myself and now I don't need to take another step for a while. And then you realize, oh, I took the first step, but then I took 20 steps backwards and now I'm in an even worse spot than I was when I thought I was taking the first step, right? It's like you have to take the first step, yes, and that's good, and you should celebrate that, but don't overly celebrate it and then just be like, okay, now I'm content and I don't need to do anything, right? This is the first step, but there's still a lot of other steps that you need to take. And yes, the journey is long and it's a very long way away, but the only way you're going to get there is if you take that next step and the next step and the next step, right? You have to realize that this is the start of a long journey. Don't let the fact that it's a long journey dissuade you from continuing, and understand that you will get to the end, but it requires you taking step after step after step, right?
Because I have not relapsed this deep in couple years. So I don't know where we go from here. I am starting a full-time job. I'm not going to make any promises about vlogs or uploads or anything like that. But I do lives pretty regularly. I have gotten a few comments of people accusing me of abandoning my channel. I haven't. I've been here this whole time. But not everybody wants to watch me cooking and eating on live stream, and I get that.
I think that for me personally, I think if the main goal is to be successful, I think, in my opinion, again, take this with a grain of salt, but I think that cutting down on the lives would probably be good. I don't feel like they are something that is overly beneficial. Again, that's just my opinion, but I feel like I see a lot of fighting and just like trying to explain yourself to people, and like I understand that it can feel kind of lonely, but I think it's one of those things where it's this desire to connect we have, and because of that we end up making poor decisions, and I feel like a lot of times the lives end up being not the best thing. I think videos, in my opinion, can be a little bit healthier because you can kind of plan them out a little bit more, have a reason that you're filming this stuff. You're not dealing with people during a live stream trying to kind of like coax you into saying stuff or whatever, trying to mess with you. But again, that's my opinion. I'm not sure if lives are the healthiest thing, especially when, you're going to have a full-time job, you're going to be doing other stuff. I'm not sure if that would be the healthiest option.
I also do other stuff on live stream, but a lot of it's cooking content because that's what's easy. And I'm a lot of things. But I'm honest. And I don't ever want to mislead y'all, and people would ask me on lives a lot, and so I would just be like, I'm not losing weight. It's not where I'm at right now. And sometimes I'd be like, just like, I don't feel like talking about it. And because I didn't, and I was avoiding, and
that's exactly why I'm not entirely sure if being live all the time is beneficial in this current situation, right?
I just have this fear that I'm not strong enough. But the only person that determines that is me. So, I've been filming for about 30 minutes. I'm sorry for such serious vibes. There was no way for me to address this without getting emotional. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful evening wherever you are, and stay true.
So I think like one of the biggest things that I see like a difference is that there does seem to be accountability taken, right? And it's interesting if we look at the comments of like this video compared to like a, Amberlyn Reed video, they're a lot more positive, right? So this top comment, thank you for sharing so openly, Rosie, you're helping more of us than you know. By sharing the unfiltered ups and downs of your health journey, I'm rooting for you. And then, I love you so much for posting this. I've been in the same sort of rut, and it does feel impossible to climb out of it, but you can make it through. Just like you have everything else. I believe in you. I'm supporting you and simultaneously working alongside you to better myself as well. You're far from alone, and you will be back better than ever. Good luck, beautiful. I'm rooting for you, right? And it's like most of them are positive comments, right? It's like, I know it's painful and embarrassing, but getting on the scale is the first step to getting better. And I really agree with that. I think it's when you stick your head in the sand and you're like, I just don't even want to look at it. There's no way that you make a step forward from there, right? You have to look at it dead in the face and realize this is something that I need to do, and it's something I need to face before I can get better, right? They go on to say you have to know where you are in order to know where you need to go. What that number is a fact. You can't change the events that led up to it, but you can do what's needed to make those changes. You need to focus on healing yourself, right? And it's a, it's just like the majority of these comments are positive, and seeing like the difference between that and like an ALR video. And I think a big part of it, and I'm curious what other people think, but I think a big part of it is not making excuses and taking full accountability for your actions and not blaming other people. And then one thing that Fraser said that I thought was interesting, in his response to what makes someone like a lol cow, was trying to respond to everything, right? Respond to all the criticism. And I think that there's a way that you can respond to stuff in like a video like this where you're very open, versus how someone like ALR might do it, where it's half of the video is just responding to random stuff that's just so unnecessary. And it encourages other people to make, accusations that you'll respond to, and it just feeds this cycle, right? But again, I would love to know what y'all think about what makes someone a lol cow. What are the ingredients that are necessary for that to happen? And then obviously I would love to know what you think about this video with Rosie as well. And what your overall thoughts are. I would love to hear it. If you made it to the end of the video, I very much so appreciate it. A thumbs up, a like, leaving a comment, obviously all helps the algorithm. Subscribing if you haven't already. All that stuff is really helpful. And I just appreciate you all very much, and I'll see you next time. Peace.